Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Audrey.
So tell me about yourself. How long have you been teaching and how long have you been teaching AIM?
Sure. I have been teaching I just completed 8 years. I had to think about it. Just completed 8 years of my teaching career, and I've been teaching with AIM for 1 year.
Wonderful. And I understand you've been phasing in AIM this past year, so you had a unique experience where you taught some classes with AIM and some with traditional methods. So
Yes.
I would love to hear more about the differences and what you saw in this past year between the two classes. Tell us which track they were and how that went.
Okay. Currently, the way our school worked is we started a new 7th grade program. So with our new 7th grade program, we decided to phase in AIM language courses. But that was the incoming new students. So we continued with the old track and the old path and our traditional methods for our 8th grade students that were also first year and 9th grade students who would be in their second year.
So you taught 7th with AIM,
Yes.
8th and 9th
Right.
without.
But I didn't have 7th graders. I had 8th graders. And in our 8th grade, because the traditional way to do it was to split them into 2 groups, we had 2 tracks. An intro level, which is expected to complete the New York State Checkpoint A over 2 years, so they will complete it in really the middle of 9th grade. Or our advanced group, which our goal is to do Checkpoint A in 1 year. So this year we decided with that group to use AIM with the
Which
intro.
group? Okay. The
group.
students who
So
are
the
going to take
students
2
will
years to
2
do
years for
Checkpoint.
Checkpoint A,
Okay.
and continue with the traditional method with students that do Checkpoint A in 1 year.
Okay, so you were doing, basically, to sum it up, you were doing AIM with the non-advanced students.
Exactly.
And you were using traditional methods with the advanced students.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So how was that? Tell us about the differences and what you saw and what you experienced.
Well, the first thing is, once you start doing AIM, all your other classes, you want to use a gesture when a student can't come up with a word. You want to say, "Oh, Faye," Faye, or to help them with a small grammar thing. Like an ending on a verb or adjective agreement, and that was difficult to stop myself and say, "Oh,
Because
that's not going to mean anything
right.
to you if I make this action."
So already you didn't have the vehicles that you did in the AIM classroom to help your students,
Right,
to bring them
support
along.
them in their accuracy and their production. Absolutely. Also, in comprehension, one course was an immersion course. The other course, I was speaking English the majority of the time with my students, doing things, the traditional way of introducing vocabulary, playing games. My students would talk in English with each other often, whereas in the immersion class, it was much, much less of that. In fact, the non-advanced students at the end of the year said to me, "What? They don't have to speak English, or they don't have to speak French all the time in the other class?" Like, they were outraged to learn that. But the lower track students obviously benefited so much more from their experience. They are comfortable and they function completely in the language and have all year long. They have listened to me, talked to me, asked, everything they need. They need a pencil, they need to go to the bathroom, all of that they do completely in French. My other class, I of course taught them, the advanced students, how to say, go to the bathroom, they need a pencil, all those things. But it usually took a lot more coaxing to get them to say those things in French. Or, the whole, "Comment, je n'ai pas compris," or something along those lines, like, what do you want? In order to get them to use the target language. Whereas the other class is very comfortable with it. Around Christmas time, I did the Saint Nicolas, on St. Nicholas Day, we did the tradition of the shoes from Alsace. So I did that with 2 of my classes, both classes. I did the same thing. I pulled up some pictures beforehand of Père Fouettard and Saint Nicolas, who are the important characters to tell the story, and a shoe, a sabot, so I could show them exactly what kind of shoes we have and explain the whole history and the story and the tradition of putting a shoe out and hoping that you get candy instead of a switch in your shoe. And I did the same thing with both classes. I introduced it completely in French with the help of the visual aids of the pictures that I pulled together with the words that the students wouldn't know. And I explained it to both classes. The minute I finished with the advanced class, a girl went, "What? I didn't get any of that." And in the intro class, nobody said anything like that, and they started making their little shoes to put them out so that they would hopefully get candy from Panicula. So, and that moment, you know, it's one of those moments where you feel awesome about the lower level students, and I just felt crushed about the upper level. Like, it was really an emotional conflict all year of,
right.
I feel like I'm not doing what's best for my advanced students.
Because once
They're
you
not
understand
progressing as much.
AIM and you have a taste of it with students, you just feel like you want it more of that for everyone.
There were so many experiences at the high school even where students would struggle to come up with a specific word, and I'd think to myself, if you had AIM, you'd know that word. It's a very common word. What do you mean you're misconjugating faire? Or what do you mean you can't come up with the word je veux?
Right.
Really? Veux? My ninth graders didn't know je veux. And of course, you know, traditionally you would teach them the verb conjugation of vouloir and in association with food and practice with it and the whole thing. But at the end of the year, they could not produce and come up with that word on their own. Whereas with an AIM student, they knew it. If they didn't, you simply go. And then they are immediately prompted to say, oh, je veux.
So would you venture to say that even though you taught students who were technically the lower level students, the not the high achievers, so you taught the regular students, the run-of-the-mill kid with AIM, and the advanced kids without AIM, do you feel that your AIM students, your non-advanced kids, acquired more language than your advanced kids?
I would say definitely, because you used the word acquired. The other class, the advanced class, learned more, but it was learned language, meaning that the students could spit back a grammar rule, could pull out 10 vocabulary words on a topic.
And we know that learning is a very small part of language acquisition, so like they're going to forget that.
Exactly, that's what I was just going to say, that if today, you know, it's 2 weeks after the final exam, 3 weeks later, I'm sure if I sat down with one of my advanced students and quizzed them on specific words that we had reviewed a month ago for the final exam, they probably wouldn't remember most of them.
And whereas
those verb forms and putting things together, and would, you know, they would need the revision again. Let's conjugate IR verbs again. Okay, here we go. IS, and go through it. Whereas the intro kids, obviously, they did not put in any more study time than the advanced students. But I'm sure if I had one of them right here and I asked them about some of the words we did, they would be able to tell me those words. They would know them.
Right.
They really know it.
Because they acquired it. They
Exactly.
didn't learn it. It's
Exactly.
such a big difference.
Mhm.
And once you get a taste of acquisition, you don't want learning anymore. You want acquisition.
Absolutely.
Give me
It's
more
not
of
worth
that.
It's not worth it. Next year in September, I'm sure they'll come back with a wealth of vocab knowledge.
It's wonderful.